told you that the bull market for XRP and crypto is not over, and that the fun part that makes new millionaires is still going to happen. Would you believe me? Well, if you're like most people, then you wouldn't believe me, actually. If you're like most people, absolutely, you would not believe that, because most people right now think this bull market's already over, and they're wrong. But that is indeed what people think. And the Bitcoin pulled back, sentiment flipped. Suddenly everyone is convinced we've seen the top for the crypto market, but the data says otherwise. And in this video, I'm going to show you why this time is not different, and why the same macro signals that have mapped every single cycle for 16 years are still pointing straight up. It's not different, okay? And we're going to break this down in a way that the average person, frankly, just isn't seeing right now. Most people don't know what I'm about to share at the end of this video. And we're going to look at the market indicators that everyone's ignoring, including global liquidity. Global liquidity trend, I really wish more people understood this. Not enough people understand it. And yes, also going to highlight, of course, a number of XRP-specific developments that absolutely do matter. Especially if you're like me and you have some heavy XRP bags. I mean, XRP's my largest individual crypto holding by a lot. But if you hang out with me here, you're going to understand exactly why the fear in this market is misplaced. You're going to understand why the entire market structure is not broken, despite claims to the contrary. And also, you'll understand why the idea that the bull market already ended, folks, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm going to keep insisting until I'm proven wrong that this idea that the bull market has already ended, it just does not. Here is a post shared by Crypto Tony, a chart analyst, and it's a video snippet from a presentation that Raoul Pal gave earlier this year. I think he might have given it actually in like March to April range. I can't remember exactly. It was the earlier part of this year. I think he gave the presentation in Dubai, if memory serves. And I watched the whole thing. It was a longer presentation, but this snippet on your screen right now, it's been heavily circulating, because what is happening right now is something that he predicted in the beginning part of this year, and not because he's some sort of wizard. It's because of macro. It's because history tends to rhyme with itself. And so here's what Crypto Tony wrote while sharing this clip of Raoul Pal, who of course is the founder and CEO of Real Vision and global macro investor. He happens to be an XRP holder as well, former Goldman Sachs executive. And here's what Crypto Tony said. 6 months ago, Raoul Pal said, "We are in an elongated business/debt cycle, and that Bitcoin would climb higher, and then we would see a 35% drawdown, and everyone will be sure that it's over. And it won't be over." And that last part is a direct quote from him. And that's true. And so the chart that's on your screen, I know it's too small to see in great detail, but you've got where we were at that point in history and the first half of 2025 on the right. And then you have the cycle before that, 2019, 2020, going into 2021. And then the cycle before that, 2017, 2018, and then the cycle before that. And he's saying it has played out the same every single time. And it has to do with global liquidity and the business cycle. That is exactly what it is. And he's certainly been right to this point, but that's why I wanted to highlight this. So, chart analyst Tech Dev, he is fully on board with the thesis from Raoul Pal and Julian Biddle of Global Macro Investor. Tech Dev, very popular analyst here, 560,000 followers, and he shared this update today. He normally doesn't post particularly frequently. Sometimes he can go even a couple of weeks without anything. And so today I was surprised to see that he actually posted a couple of times, but I want to break down this particular post in this video. And he simply wrote, "The bull market shapes. The cycle tops, the USD tops, the bear market declines, the bear market bottoms, the grind up phase, the parabolic launch. These two signals have explained every aspect of Bitcoin's 16-year chart." And so you got Bitcoin up top, and then you have the business cycle, and then you have business cycle signal 2. And if you look at the top left, you can see a little key where he's highlighting what everything means, where he scribbled on it, right? So honestly, as far as I'm concerned, this is one of the cleanest macro frameworks for understanding Bitcoin's entire 16-year history, and the entire asset class moves in tandem. So even if you're like me and you're not that excited for Bitcoin, but you are excited for XRP, this matters to you, okay? TechDev overlays 2 business cycle indicators that together explain every bull run, every bear market, and every parabolic blow-off top. So the histogram bars, so the red and the green bars in the middle of your screen there, they represent the expansion or contraction of the global business cycle. And so when the bars peak, which is the dark red when they get towards the upper end, that's when liquidity is overheating. There's so much money going everywhere that people have a greater appetite for risk on assets. They'll take greater risks investing into smaller cap stocks and altcoins, so on and so forth. That's what that part of the cycle indicates. And Bitcoin is nearing its cycle high. And look, every major Bitcoin top, 2011, 2013, 2017, 2021, it all lined up perfectly with those red bear peaks. Every single freaking time. So to be clear, the business cycle red and green bars are not showing whether the economy is good or bad. That's not what that metric does. It does not show whether the economy is good or bad. It's showing if the economy is accelerating or decelerating relative to the trend. It's showing you directionally which way are we going. So when the red bars start declining, that's your macro winter. And again, it doesn't mean the economy has to be in the gutter, but that's effectively your macro winter. Liquidity contracts, Bitcoin falls into its bear market ultimately. And those downtrends match all the major Bitcoin crashes, literally all of them. And so if you think that's not going to happen this time, then you're saying this time is different. That sounds risky to me. I don't think this time is different. And the green bars, are the recovery and the expansion phase. The ramp up portion of the bull market, which is where we are right now. If you're looking at the screen, you can see what we're talking about right here. That is exactly where we are. That's where we are today. And in the business cycle expansion, so again, clearly underway. This is just data, right? But but the overheating phase, if you will, that creates Bitcoin's parabolic tops, that actually hasn't even started. Now think about that. So if TechDev's right, if Raoul Pal's right, if Julian Biddle's right, and this thesis is correct, and it is going to play out, and you're going to see the peak when you get to the top of these red bars, we haven't even seen the greatest part of the expansion. Think about that. So if Bitcoin's going to go in a final parabola, we're going to have a proper alt season, then Bitcoin dominance is going to tank to the downside ultimately. All alts are going to take off. But so that's why it's so cool. Like, we've seen a new all-time high for XRP. We haven't seen proper price discovery yet. But we've seen Bitcoin at $126,000 this cycle already. Just last month, literally, before that liquidity event. We've already seen it go that high without the final popping off stage. Think about that. That's just wild, right? And then there's the business cycle signal 2. That's the metric at the bottom here, which marks the cyclical lows and the cycle highs. Every bear market bottom happens when this blue line bottoms out, and you just saw that bottom out recently. And when I say, but I don't mean literally, that we're in a bear market as it pertains to the stock or crypto asset class, but just cyclically for that particular metric, which means that if history is to rhyme with itself, as I'm expecting it to, then again, Bitcoin hitting $126,000, that wasn't the parabolic end of the cycle. It was just the mid-cycle expansion phase. That's all that was. The true blow-off top, the red bar top, which has marked the peak of every single cycle previously. The mania that ends the cycle, none of that has happened yet. I just don't think this time is different. And Raoul Pal's explanation of the debt refinancing switching from on average 4 years to 5 years explains all of this. That's why it's no longer a 4-year cycle. Because the number of years itself is not what matters. What matters is what causes the cycle to be what it is. What caused that 4-year cycle was debt refinancing that averaged out to 4 years. But then when you have businesses on average refinancing and it averages out to 5 years, well, now it's no longer no longer a 4-year cycle. Now it's a 5-year cycle, or at least for now. And that can shift again too. The reason that it was a 5-year cycle is because people are taking advantage of, because of the pandemic, 0% interest rates. So depending on debt refinancing and what those terms are, that will determine whether this is going to extend from whenever this thing peaks, whether it'll be out another 4 years or 5 years or what. We'll just have to see what the data says. But right now, I find that highly compelling. I can't imagine thinking that this is over. But so many people just wouldn't believe it. Here's a post from chart analyst CW. Says XRP will continue to rise to $2.60 if it breaks just one selling wall. And so you can see he's talking about on the upper end close to $2.30. So I will warn, there are a number of analysts that I follow that do think it's reasonably possible that in the short term you could see XRP move to the downside a fair bit. This isn't going to go up perfectly in a straight line, even if indeed we're not entering a bear market. But he's still showing here that, if you can get through that, there's thin air above. I mean, if you're looking at this, you can see where the liquidity lies. Here's another post from CW. It says, XRP is gradually setting up to break above its all-time high. Sub-indicators have already begun to rise from the bottom, and ETFs are starting to be listed. This rally will likely surpass the all-time high and head towards the peak of phase 4. Well, I find that more compelling than the argument that everything's just over because reasons. This time's different because reasons. Okay, guys. So we see what he's targeting here too for phase 4. It's $21.50 per XRP. That is what he's targeting on this chart that's on your screen right now. He still believes that is what's probable. So I don't know where the price of XRP is going to go myself. I just generally believe the same as you guys, that if you let enough time pass, it's going to keep trending higher as long as XRP keeps getting adopted, which certainly has happened at this point. XRP fundamentals have never been stronger, and that instills confidence for the long term. That's why I will hold XRP however freaking long I have to get mine. Like, I will, whatever I have to do, however long that is, because I can't control that. I'm just going to be here whenever the market goes. I've got my exposure, and I'm going to be here when it pops. Absolutely. Here's another one from CW. I love this. This is fantastic. Speaking of confidence in XRP, what does this point at? Well, the smart money's doing some things. He wrote here, the group that has been the strongest buyers of XRP since the decline is Coinbase whales. U.S. whales have been the largest net buyers of XRP. U.S. whales will lead the XRP rally. And so you've got 4 different charts from 4 different exchanges showing XRP. And so the Coinbase one's the top left. Look at this gigantic move up from the 23rd going into the 24th. You know what that coincides with, don't you? You guys know, right? That would be when the Franklin Templeton XRP ETF, as well as the Grayscale ETF, went live on the same day. And wouldn't you know it, all of a sudden, large purchases. This is the smart money. It's coming from Coinbase. It just couldn't be. And this is the time where people are freaking out, giving up. So many people have lost confidence in XRP. It's just so silly to me. Well, the smart money hasn't. Some of the smart money is just getting involved. Like now. Take it for what it's worth, folks. And then there was this. Take a look at this. I'll tell you this, and this is hilarious to me. If you think that XRP, like the best for XRP this cycle is behind us, if that's what you think, just know that even Cointelegraph disagrees with you, and they hate XRP. They hate XRP over at Cointelegraph. They won't say it like that, but they've been funding it for over a decade. Like, these people. I'm going to go ahead and guess that in order to get hired there, it's a requirement that you despise XRP. Otherwise, they probably just don't want you. I don't mean that literally, but that's kind of what it seems like sometimes. Look at this headline. 5 XRP charts suggest a short-term price rally to $2.80 is next. Well, that's interesting. And I'm not going to read the whole article, but there is one thing in particular I do want to highlight. If I can find it real quick. It might have been, yeah, right here. This is fascinating. Oh, man. So I've been talking about in recent videos how there's no shortage of evidence that XRP is flying off of various exchanges. And that's great, because if XRP is going off exchanges, that indicates that people don't plan to sell it anytime soon. So you won't have as much of a downward price action or price pressure, right? It doesn't mean price can't go lower. It just means there are a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'm not selling anytime soon. They're going to wait till the price is way higher, and then maybe they'll be enticed to sell. So it'll be a smaller pool of people who are willing to panic sell, basically, right? But take a look at this. Look at this little subheading. Falling XRP supply on exchanges is bullish. There's been a notable decline in XRP supply on exchanges over the past 60 days, as indicated by data from Glassnode. The chart below shows that the XRP balance on exchanges dropped by more than 45% to 2.6 billion tokens on Thursday from 3.95 billion XRP on September 21st. Folks, I understand that the price has been suppressed in crypto recently. Bitcoin cratered down. There was that liquidation event on October 10th. I get it. Prices are lower than they were before this. Got it. Okay. But a bunch of people have purchased XRP, the smart money has, and they have decided to take their XRP off exchanges because they are not willing to sell until the price is much higher. There's a lot of people with a lot of very strong conviction here. That's what this data is indicating. Absolutely. Even Cointelegraph is highlighting this now. Fascinating to see, is it not? And then we had this from Crypto Insight UK. I want to share a snippet from the newsletter that he publishes weekly. And he was talking here specifically about XRP, and he is firmly in the bull camp, and I think for good logical reasons. So I want to share with you just a little snippet of what Crypto Insight UK was sharing in his latest newsletter, which he published just the other day. It says, XRP holds strong. I want to discuss the fact that XRP has still managed to hold on top of its previous 7-year resistance and keep that level as support within a range between $3.30 and around $2. This range has been violated a few times with wicks to the downside, but each time it has been bought up. Only on 2 occasions in the last year have we seen weekly closes slightly below the $2 mark at around $1.91, and since then, price has held firmly above $2 on the weekly close. So folks, this is in line with what I've been insisting is the case the whole year for XRP. It has been showing uncharacteristic strength, very, very notable, very, very intense strength. It is holding at a time when so many coins, so many alts have fallen 70, 80, 90% over much of the last year. XRP hit a couple new all-time highs and mostly moved sideways. So comparatively speaking, that is tremendous strength compared to the rest of the market. It's not done. Now that XRP is finally operating in a level playing field and it's not being attacked by the United States government via the SEC, wouldn't you know it? It's doing pretty darn well. Anyway, he continues. Even during this recent downturn, we saw strength appear at the bottom of the range, pushing price quickly from the $2 area back up to the $2.22 level, where we sit today at the time of writing on Friday, the 28th of November. I think XRP is going to be one of the major beneficiaries if we do get this next leg up. Now, folks, that I strongly agree with, and that's why I put this video together in the order that I did. The macro indicates we're going up. There's going to be an increased appetite for risk on assets for all of the reasons that I keep citing here. Global liquidity going up, business cycle, all this stuff. And what I'm saying is I believe that XRP is going to be one of the greatest beneficiaries of that. And that's the same thing he's saying here. I believe that this whole time. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, in which case I fine. I guess we go into a bear market and in a few years the market comes back and I just wait to sell in. Fine, worst case scenario. But I don't think that's what's even happening here. There's too much evidence to the contrary. I don't know how I could logically believe that's what's happening when everything we know about macro says no, that's not. We haven't finished this cycle. But yeah, if we get this next leg up, it's going to be great for XRP holders in particular. The XRP is just waiting for the right environment, and that's what we're getting into now. Anyway, then he says, as I mentioned at the start of this newsletter, XRP is included in the digital asset treasury discussion. We have seen Garlinghouse and others from Ripple in repeated meetings with Trump. Ripple has also acquired multiple companies over the past 1 to 2 years, spending billions of dollars. They are clearly positioning themselves as pro-US, pro-innovation, and aligned with the messaging that Trump is pushing. Price action is holding strong, and I will include a liquidity chart showing that since the October 10th liquidation, there is essentially only liquidity left above us. On top of this, the XRP ETF has now gone live across multiple brokers and is performing extremely well so far. Yeah, and he's spot on about that also. The incredible strength to start from the multiple XRP ETFs that have gone live. We've got another one going live tomorrow. That's the 21 shares spot XRP ETF. That'll be the 5th one. But as I mentioned in my last video, $666 million worth of inflows collectively for the 4-spot XRP ETFs this month. That's astonishing. Despite this environment and despite the fact that 3 of them didn't even go live until the later part of November, and we still had that level of inflows, that is incredible demand. In fact, the Canary Capital spot XRP ETF that launched November 13th, the first one in history in the United States, that was the #1 ETF launch in 2025, not just for crypto, but out of the 900 ETFs that launched in 2025, roughly, just globally in the United States, that was #1. Our beloved XRP, #1. You can't fake that. There is such genuine, true organic interest in XRP, and it shows. Which is why it just doesn't make sense to not be optimistic for the future. The best is yet ahead. We are not done here, folks. And I know some people are frustrated and wish this had all happened sooner and we already had the blow off top and all that. Fine, I get that. But we can't control that, so let's not be babies about it. Like, we don't get to control that. Either we have exposure when it happens or we don't, and I'm going to. That's what I'm saying. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea.